Figure that I'm on my own, there's no sense for me to quit. What you saying, we don't know. I'm just trying to reach my goals. Heard you snitching, saying that so you can't hang with me no more. What's up, guys? Chris Productions here, and I'm back with another amazing video, man. Now today we got Dirty Dan Schneider from Patrick CC. This video was posted 2 days ago and it already has 800,403 thousand views. Thousand views, man. Original video link's gonna be in the description. I ain't got too much to say for this video. Man, this has been a long day. I ain't even gonna lie to y'all, man. It's my second video for today. Well, really my third video for today. But we're putting in that work. Loving all the support. We're about to hit 3,000 subscribers very, very soon. Thank you guys so much for all the support that you guys been giving me. Thanks for all the engagement. I got a big announcement coming very, very soon. That's not the 3,000, it's something completely different. But I'm super happy about how things have been going with Crispy Productions, and I'm very excited for the future and what I have in store for you guys. So yeah, but without further ado, let's go ahead and get started.
Is it a coincidence that 3 convicted pedophiles were working at the largest children's television network during the peak of its success and popularity? What if I told you that there was also a convicted pedophile managing the children that were often cast on the network's shows?
Wow.
What if I told you that many of the underage girls were forced to kiss men over the age of 18 on camera? And then what if you found out that multiple of these young victims grew up and were caught performing inappropriate sexual acts with children themselves, repeating the cycle of abuse? These are not rumors. These are facts. When you combine these facts with the realization that many of the jokes, physical comedy, outfits, and even random pieces of the set were sexual innuendos, at some point you'd start to eliminate the possibility of this being a coincidence and start thinking this was all by design. Today I'm going to break down exactly how a powerful network of executives separated child actors from their families, have their actors depend on them for emotional support.
And I used to love Nickelodeon. I didn't love like all the shows on Nickelodeon, but there was a couple shows, TMNT, the cartoon show TMNT. There was a couple other shows on Nickelodeon. I can't think off the top of my head. I can just think immediately TMNT. But yeah, I used to love Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, all them kids channel. Y'all let me know what's y'all favorite kids channel in the comment section.
Then abuse their power to overwork these children, rake in billions in profits, silence anyone who dared to speak out, and then bragged about it in front of the whole world. And just like most organized crime operations, they typically funnel up to one top boss, the untouchable creator of this machine. Insert Dan Schneider, the man behind the camera, the esteemed Nickelodeon producer who created some of the most iconic children's television programs in history.
At the end of the day, I love it when the cast gets sassy with me because I get to write all the scripts with some very talented writers, but I can put them in any horrible predicament I choose.
Dan Schneider was a child actor himself, most notable for his role as Dennis on Head of the Class. During this time, he and his co-star Brian Robbins became great friends. The pair were later asked to co-host the second annual Kids' Choice Awards by a Nickelodeon producer called Albie Hecht. The 3 men struck a friendship and frequently discussed creating a project together. By 1993, Hecht had become a high-level executive at Nickelodeon and challenged Robbins to pitch him a children's television series that their new production studio could pitch to Nickelodeon. At the time, Nickelodeon was not yet the powerhouse it would become. The network struggled to become profitable in the 80s as they were losing millions of dollars per year. One year they were actually the lowest viewed network out of all US cable channels. Early 90s cartoons like Doug, Rugrats, and Ren and Stimpy were allowing the network to pick up higher viewership, but their live action shows struggled. So Brian recruited Dan and they came up with a sketch comedy show like Saturday Night Live, but for children, called All That. Dan wrote in his personal blog, "We did a nationwide talent search and got very lucky. Every kid we ended up hiring for the original All That cast turned out to be fantastic. Josh Server, Kenan Thompson, Kel Mitchell, Katrina Johnson, Lori Beth Denberg, Angelique Bates, and Alyssa Reyes."
Man, I always wanted to be an actor when I was a kid. I ain't gonna lie to you. I think me and my mom actually got some headshots. Oh, not headshots done, but like I did like a headshot, like kind of esque in the car. I wanted to be an actor for real, and I still low key do want to be an actor, but I'm just it's all gonna come. It's all gonna come. I got a plan. It's all gonna fall into the plan in the future. But you're gonna see me on the big screen soon. Y'all gonna see me on the big screen at least one time, and at least one show, one movie, or one something. I gotta be in Netflix, Hulu, something. I gotta be in something.
Dan recalled that the show didn't test well and that the network felt like kids wouldn't like a sketch comedy show, but they took a chance on him and the show immediately became a huge success for Nickelodeon as soon as it aired. All that would go on to have 10 seasons and become one of the most culturally significant teen Nickelodeon shows of all time. Imagine how proud the executives were of Dan's performance. They were finally getting the big break they needed, and Nickelodeon was coming closer to becoming a profitable network. The only thing that could ruin their momentum would be some sort of scandal or reports of child abuse, and that's exactly what happened according to Angelique Bates, who was only 12 years old when the abuse began. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor, Underdog Fantasy.
Oh, hold on, wait a second now.
With Underdog.
From 1992 to 1996, I was a series regular on Nickelodeon's All That. I was only 12 years old, and that's when my nightmare began. I was physically, mentally, emotionally abused in front of the producers and cast members, and sometimes they could even hear me yelling.
Wow.
But nothing was done to help me until approximately 1996 when CPS was called.
Wow.
And when CPS came, I was pressured by all the adults that were set to protect me to stay silent.
Wow.
I did, and I have. But I can no longer stay silent, and I won't.
Thanks.
My name is Angelique Bates, and I am an adult survivor of child abuse, and this is my story.
Angelique is the first known survivor who has spoken up against Nickelodeon's corrupt practices, and her story is extremely important because it also highlights the parents' involvement in such abuse. Angelique recalls Nickelodeon producers being upset that her mom was constantly supervising her.
They started having a bullseye for her was that she was one of the parents that was not going to leave me unattended on set because by law, parents are supposed to be there.
Right.
So they didn't like that fact that she wouldn't leave me.
Some parents would leave their kids unsupervised while they work. They trusted the producers and did not want to interfere with their child's opportunity to build a career for them.
Yeah, that would have definitely been my mom. That would have definitely been my mom all up in there. What y'all doing? Where my kid at? Nope. Nah. Where y'all at? Nope. Yep, where you at?
Mother was not like that, and she even recalled a time where someone made a sexual advance towards her and her mother threatened to sue the network. Unfortunately, Angelique's mother was also physically and emotionally abusive towards her, so she wasn't safe on set or at home.
The double-ass story with my mom beating my ass, but then she's like protecting me from Nickelodeon all at the same time. Like, she blocked all that. Like I said, the reason why they started hating her was because she was blocking me from that and because she was turning down sexual advances from it.
Angelique slowly received less and less work due to her mother's involvement and believed she was blackballed by Nickelodeon because she and her mother could not be controlled. And because no wrongdoings were ever officially reported, All That ratings continued to soar. The series propelled the careers of cast members Kenan Thompson and Kel Mitchell, who starred in the first All That spin-off, Kenan and Kel. The show originally aired on Nickelodeon for 4 seasons from 1996 to 2001 and was equally as successful as All That, winning the Favorite TV Show award at the 1998 Kids' Choice Awards. They also starred in the Nickelodeon cult classic film, Good Burger. However, with Schneider in charge, not much changed behind the scenes. Taisha Hampton, ex-wife of Kel Mitchell, spoke out on suspicious behavior she experienced on Nickelodeon sets. Taisha was married to Mitchell from 1999 to 2005, but they originally met on the set of Good Burger where she was casted as an extra. She too backs up the claims that parents were not around.
And these parents, like Kel's parents, were not with him. All these parents of the kids on the show, their parents were not with them.
Separate the children from the parents. That seems to be a theme with Nickelodeon. There are 2 main reasons why they likely did this. Firstly, it seems like Nickelodeon was trying to take advantage of loose child labor laws in Florida, where the shows were filmed. According to the 1998 Florida Child Labor Code, minors aged 15 and under could work 40 hours per week as long as it was during a holiday or summer vacation. 16 and 17-year-olds who graduated from high school or had their GED did not have to abide by any work hour restrictions. A school superintendent could also also issue a waiver of hours, and there is no law that specifically states a parent must supervise their kid while their child is working. However, regardless of what the code says, child labor experts say the laws were rarely enforced or penalized when there was a violation. In 1992, Jeffrey Newman of the National Child Labor Committee said that child labor today is at a point where violations are greater than at any point during the 1930s. One report found that the average business could expect to be inspected once every 50 years or so. Inspectors spend only about 5% of their time looking into child labor problems. Businesses across the entire nation were taking advantage of loose child labor laws in the 90s. Do you think Nickelodeon was any different? Children are more susceptible.
That's why our parents are so quick to be like, oh, y'all wouldn't be able to handle our time. Y'all wouldn't be able to handle when we was kids. When we was y'all age, we had to do this, that, and the third. And we be sitting there like, man, they tripping. It couldn't have been that bad. But nah, they was literally going through the worst child labor time. They was going through the worst time of child labor in the history of America. Jesus.
Exploitation and abuse in the workplace due to their vulnerability and lack of bargaining power. Think of how easy it would be for a TV producer to torment and gaslight a young actor if they weren't getting their lines right or performing to the producer's standards. But if their parents were there on set witnessing their child get scolded, they might cause a fuss. Producers want as little friction as possible, so it's not crazy to think that they probably cast talent with parents who stay out of their way. But once they do get the parents out of the way, what do they do with the kids?
Because we would get into clubs, and we were young, like 16, 17 years old, we'd be in clubs. And the people on the set in Florida made us fake IDs.
Wow.
And so then I started thinking, I was like, wait.
That would groom me, y'all.
And then they were talking about orgies, and they were talking about, like, people on the set would show, like, pornos, and they'd give us alcohol.
Those were kids, like young kids on that set.
Yeah, these are grown 30-year-old men and women
showing this to the kids,
16, 17, 15, 14-year-old kids. But another one of the cast members was like cleaning Dan Schneider's car with a bikini on.
What?
Now this time she had been 15, 16 years old. There were other times they would have like parties where the parents wouldn't be there, and they'd give us alcohol. And another one of the people on the cast was giving blowjobs to the producers.
Wow, one of the kids.
And they were kids.
Tracy Brown, whose son Brian Hearn was cast on All That for season 7 and 8, tells a similar story from a mother's perspective.
Because there are many times on that set where they're like, hey, we want to invite Brian to a party. And I'm like, hey, just Brian? And they go, yes. And I'm like, no. And they don't like moms that take control of their child. But I had heard things. So guess what? You don't need to like me. And they were like, well, bye-bye. And I was like, let's go. I was not going to do anything for the money. Like, y'all need to understand, I'm that woman. I'm not going to do anything that might compromise my son, not even for the income.
But many even suspect that the producer's perversion may have been scripted into the shows, starting with Kyra on Kenan and Kel, who was just 12 years old but was always trying to flirt and make sexual advances on the much older Kel. She would refer to him as her boyfriend despite him being obviously uninterested because she is a child. At the same time that Kenan and Kel were huge stars, one All That cast member emerged and became the most iconic Nickelodeon star of all time, Amanda Bynes. At just 10 years old, Amanda stood out amongst her peers and showcased her comedic talents through various characters and sketches. As a preteen, she was maturely confident and comfortable on screen. According to Leon Frierson, who was cast on All That since season 1, Schneider showed clear favoritism for Bynes. We had to go to school on set. There would be times when Amanda would just be missing, he recalled in the docuseries. A lot of times we would hear she would be with Dan, pitching ideas and writing. We see them grow closer to each other on set. He continued, Amanda Bynes' parents were very hands-on in her career, specifically her dad. His presence was always felt. A big part of that was his relationship with Dan Schneider. Like we said before, hands-on parents were not wanted on Nickelodeon's set. That is, unless they are bending to the interests of Dan Schneider. Despite the favoritism, Dan never planned on giving Amanda her own show because he claims he never wanted to be on children's television. He initially created and helped produce a series called called Guys Like Us for the United Paramount Network at their primetime 8 p.m. slot. Guys Like Us revolves around two young men, Sean Barker and Jared Harris. The pair are forced to look after Jared's 6-year-old brother Maestro, who comes to live with them after Jared's father accepts a job opportunity overseas.
Why don't you go wash your hands?
They're clean.
Well, then go wash your feet.
Dan's sitcom designed for adults was an utter failure as he was not funny nor creative enough to keep adults entertained. It was canceled after one season due to abysmal ratings, so he shifted his focus to creating a show around Amanda. The Amanda Show was a sketch comedy television program that had a very similar look, feel, and comedic style as All That and Kenan and Kel. Schneider struck gold again. The Amanda Show became the highest rated live-action television program on Nickelodeon during its run. Amanda portrayed various characters that would become iconic, such as Judge Trudy,
Bring in the dancing lobsters.
Crazy Courtney, and Amanda's obsessive fan, Penelope Taint.
My name is Penelope Taint. I'm Amanda's #1 fan, please.
And it took us 20 years to realize that her last name was a sexual innuendo. People also think that her catchphrase, Amanda Please, was built off the phrase, a man to please, which would be such a deep, detailed level of innuendo that it's kind of hard to believe. However, as this video goes on, it just seems more and more possible. People today also believe that her sketch called Amanda's Jacuzzi may have been inappropriate since the whole concept was her as a 13-year-old interviewing mostly grown men in a hot tub. And of course, another foot joke.
Is it also true that you can put both of your feet inside your mouth at the same time?
I don't know. No.
Even Dan decided to jump in the jacuzzi.
There's a lot of TV shows that like have like weird jokes and like sexual jokes and like jokes that like as adults and as, you know, grown-ups, we look at these shows and we look at these scenes and we're questioning it. We sit there like, what in the world? Like, what? This is for kids? But literally as kids, when we're watching it, we're not thinking about none of that stuff. We just literally just enjoying the show. So we never realize, we never notice, we never actually care until we get older and we're like, hold on, wait a second. Like, what do you mean by that right there?
Amanda.
Hi, welcome to my jacuzzi. Today my special guest is the executive producer of The Amanda Show, Dan Schneider.
Hi.
Now, you're the executive producer of the show.
Yes, I'm the executive producer and the head writer.
People believe Dan was almost bragging by creating lightly sexual conduct into his kids' shows, like the Spitballer 5000, which was a phallic object that the kids had to blow into to launch a giant spitball at someone. Behind-the-scenes footage indicates that Dan and Amanda were very close, which is why it was shocking that The Amanda Show abruptly ended in 2002, just 3 years after it aired on Nickelodeon. In an interview with The Times, Bynes explained that she decided to leave for other opportunities. I was having fun, but at 15, you don't want to be doing what you did when you were 12. Schneider also commented on her exit with, I've seen kids in her position experiment with drugs and be too promiscuous, but Amanda has avoided all of that. My wife, who knows her, says she's almost like Marsha Brady in that she's so clean-cut and wholesome. This quote seems characteristically odd from Dan. Like she was just talking about transitioning to more mature roles like her sitcom What I Like About You, and he had to bring up drugs and sex for some reason. Many years later, cast members would come out and speak about how they perceived Amanda behind the scenes. Actress Chelsea Brummett, who co-starred on All That, recalled, she was closed off to everyone. You'd ask her a question and she'd give you a quick answer to end the conversation. She was always defiant with her dad, but she tried to hide things from her dad. She always seemed like she was trying to hide things. They would butt heads. This recountment does line up with the timeline of 2003 where Amanda sought to be emancipated from her parents at just 17 years old. In June of 2003, Amanda's agent, manager, and lawyer were all abruptly fired by her parents. The young star, now 17, was seeking legal emancipation from her parents, who were furious when they discovered that the reps had concealed this fact from them. Unfortunately, Amanda was not able to successfully get emancipated. During this rough patch in her life, Bynes reportedly leaned on Schneider and his wife, Lisa Lillian, for support. She was spending a lot of time with us, said Lillian, but she never left her family's house. This direct quote from Dan's wife is strong evidence that Dan and Amanda were close offset. Amanda has spoken out very strongly against her father and maybe at the time looked at Schneider as a replacement father figure. Dan also recently recounted a night where Amanda ran away from home.
One night, it was very late, well after midnight, 1 or 2 in the morning. Phone rang, I answered, it was Amanda. She was upset, she was in distress. She had had some conflict with her parents, I think her father, and she called me. I was immediately concerned about her safety. I called someone who I knew was fairly nearby. That person was able to go and pick her up. Then I knew she was safe. I felt better. She ended up being taken to the police.
As much as people blame Dan for the downfall of
I wanted to say, like, there's nobody that got it all together, bro. Like, you saw how they was saying how this girl was always getting the good shows, and she got her own TV show to herself that was a smash hit, but she was able to do all this stuff, and she became an icon and all this extra stuff, and people was looking at her like, like she doing her thing. But behind the scenes, she's super closed off, and she's got all these stuff going on with her parents. She got to get emancipated, and she's leaning on Dan Schneider, but Dan Schneider's a creep, and he's a pedophile, and it's a whole other, you feel me? Don't nobody got it all in a bag of chips, bro. Don't nobody got it all together, bro. Everybody got some type of flaw. Everybody got something that they just keep behind closed doors because they don't want nobody to see it.
his career or claim that he had suspicious involvement that's deeper and more inappropriate. Throughout Amanda's whole life and numerous public spirals, she never blamed or accused Dan Schneider of anything. All of her anger and horrible accusations were towards her biological father. However, the cloud of mystery and potentially inappropriate behavior surrounding Amanda, as well as her obviously broken family life, seemed to be a common gray area Dan found himself in with his stars. Over the years, some of the most prominent stars like Jamie Lynn Spears, Jeanette McCurdy, and Ariana Grande all had absent fathers. On one hand, you can blame the parents. On another, you could look at Dan as a predatory opportunist. Or maybe it's a little bit of both. But there was a real convicted predator who worked underneath Dan Schneider. Jason Handy, a production assistant who worked on All That and The Amanda Show, exchanged email addresses and phone numbers with parents and kids who thought he was a friendly and helpful presence on set. You thought, oh, I could be friends with this person, said MJ, the mother of a former actress on The Amanda Show, who was identified as Brandy. The mother was mortified when she saw her 11-year-old daughter looking at a graphic email from Handy.
It was a picture of him naked. Masturbating.
Wow. To a little kid?
And he said he had sent it to her because he wanted her to see that he was thinking of her.
Her daughter left the entertainment industry after that email. Handy was arrested in April of 2003 after law enforcement received a tip about him. When the police investigated his home, they found over 1,700 images of young girls in erotic poses, as well as 7 videos on CD files of children engaged in sexually explicit conduct. In Handy's personal diary, he wrote sentences like, "I am a pedophile full-blown." He added, "I have really been giving into my desire for little girls these past few weeks." And then he detailed his day-to-day struggle on how he could find a victim that he could sexually assault. In 2004, Handy was sentenced to 6 years in prison after being convicted on—
What did I say in that other video with Chris Hansen, bro? Pedophiles are a special type of criminal, bro. These are the types of criminals that don't care, bro. They want to go to jail, bro. Lock me up, throw away the key. I ain't scared to go back to jail.
Take me to jail. Take me to jail. Lock me up. Lock me up. Throw away the key. Throw away the key. I ain't afraid to fuck somebody in his ass. Hey, whoa.
one of lewd acts on a child and one of distributing sexually explicit material by email, as well as on a misdemeanor charge related to sexual exploitation of a child. Many of you are probably thinking 6 years is not enough. And
Not
surprise,
enough at
surprise,
all.
he got out and in 2014 committed 2 other felony sex offender violations with a child. Allegedly, Handy's case prompted Nickelodeon to toughen its background checks for all employees, trying to prevent this from happening again. Yet somehow, this was not even close to the last time a pedophile would infiltrate Nickelodeon's network. Actor Drake Bell formed a bond with the dialogue coach Brian Peck during the 2nd season of The Amanda Show. Peck, who has no relation to Drake's co-star Josh Peck, would invite Drake to his house for acting lessons. These lessons were supervised by Drake's father, Joe, who was told that Brian Peck was a skilled coach who would help Drake secure more acting opportunities. However, over time, Joe became uncomfortable with their relationship.
And unfortunately, I started seeing Brian start to just hang around Drake too much. And it didn't set well with me. Drake would be in the dressing room or something, and in would pop Brian. And just touch Drake. You know, do things that, wait a second, what are you doing? Drake can put that on himself. And the thing is, this is in front of people.
Joe expressed his concerns with production personnel and said he was uncomfortable with Brian, only to be called homophobic because of Brian's sexual orientation. Therefore, Joe backed off. Once this got back to
No. Y'all gotta stop with this homophobic BS, bro. Y'all gotta stop. Y'all actually have to stop. Do y'all even know what homophobia is? To just be constantly throwing the word around. Talking about some homophobic. Bro, if I don't want no other man touching me, I don't want no other man doing, if I'm uncomfortable with what another man is doing, and I tell you to stop, that's not me being homophobic. That's me having boundaries, bro. You lucky you don't bust your lip. Like, what you talking about right now? Homophobic. Excuse me? He's a touchy-feely guy. He don't need to be touchy-feely with me. He need to be touchy-feely with his little gay friends, not me. Cause it get critical over here. It get critical over here. Y'all better quit playing, bruh. Y'all better quit playing, bruh. Like, for real. Belle's father was his manager and became uncomfortable about how much time Peck was spending with his son. So much so that he went to production and told them, I don't see anything abnormal, but it just doesn't, I don't have a good feeling, he said at the time. Joe Bell claims production told him that Peck is gay and said, you're just being homophobic and you just don't understand that he's a touchy-feely guy. He backed off after feeling ostracized. How can you back off? How can you back off as a parent, as a father? As a father, I'm not backing off of nothing. If I was a father, I'm not backing off of nothing. I don't care what you call me. I don't care how you feel about what I'm saying. If I feel like my son is being exploited, if I feel like my son is being victimized, if I feel like my son is being touched in a weird way, I'm going to speak up. If you got a problem, we can hit. If you got a problem, we can hit. We can hit about it. What you mean? What you got to say? Care about how you feel? They get critical. Y'all tripping.
He manipulated Drake into severing ties with his father/manager, suggesting that Joe was sabotaging Drake's career. Peck subsequently integrated himself into multiple areas of Belle's life and became a father figure for the young actor. Eventually, Peck convinces Drake's mother to let him stay at his house during auditions. These predators entice the children with fame and fortune, convince them that their parents are trying to hold them back, then totally isolate them and do who knows what behind closed doors. It's likely that all the kids who made it out unscathed were because of parents who stepped in and removed their child from
SD card ran out of storage. Back to the video.
The actor was, such as Drake Bell, the more difficult it became to remove them from the industry. Sadly, with Brian Peck and Drake Bell, we do know what happened behind closed doors. When Drake slept on Brian's couch, the sexual assault began.
I was sleeping on the couch where I would usually sleep, and I woke up to him. I just opened my eyes, I woke up, and he was sexually assaulting me. Why don't you think of the worst stuff that someone can do to somebody as a sexual assault, and that'll answer your question.
Drake wouldn't tell anyone for several months. The abuse persisted until Drake began spending more time at a girlfriend's house. One day, when he was supposed to meet with Brian, Drake said he did not want to hang out. Brian then started calling his phone nonstop. When Drake failed to answer, Brian obsessively started calling his girlfriend's house, which is when the girlfriend's mother suspected something was wrong and took Drake to her family therapist. He later detailed the abuse to his own mother, who called the police. I had to be excruciatingly detailed about every single thing and time that it had happened with two absolute strangers. The worst part was I had to make a phone call to Brian and get him to admit to what he'd done. The police monitored a wired phone call with Brian, who broke into a full-on confession that led to his arrest. The investigation was conducted privately, and Bell remained unidentified to the public for several years due to his age at that time. Drake did tell Dan Schneider about this situation right before the trial.
And when Drake and I talked, and he told me what had happened. I was more devastated by that than anything that ever happened to me in my career thus far. And I told him, I'm here for you. What do you need? But Drake's mom, a lovely woman who I stay in contact with this day, she came to me at the time and she said, Dan, I'm not good with words like you are. And would you help me with my speech for the judge?
Crying?
I said, of course. And I did.
During Brian Peck's trial, numerous prominent figures in the entertainment industry wrote letters of support vouching for his character, including James Marsden, Taran Killam, Growing Pains star Alan Thicke, Boy Meets World actors Will Friedle and Ryder Strong, among others. Some of these figures, including Friedle and Strong, have since expressed their regret over writing the letters and stated that they were manipulated by Peck's misinformation. Brian Peck was convicted of child molestation in 2004, pleading no contest to a charge of oral copulation with a minor under 16 and a charge of performing a lewd act with a 14 or 15-year-old. He spent only 16 months in prison and was mandated to register as a sex offender. And if you are surprised at that abysmally low sentencing, Peck got out and secured a job working for Disney's The Suite Life of Zack and Cody in 2006, where he voiced London Tipton's talking mirror for 3 episodes. The Disney Channel hired a registered sex offender. Despite these horrible circumstances, Drake remained in the industry and would go on to star alongside Josh Peck in their legendary
Moment of silence for the victims that had to deal with this type of stuff, man. Just trying to get their foot in the door with this acting stuff, man. Thinking that they done got the gold mine. Thinking that they done secured the bag at a young age. You got a job as an actor for a lead show at Disney, at Nickelodeon. Thinking that you finally got your life figured out at such a young age. You think you one of the lucky ones. Which in some terms you are. But you can't even follow your passion, follow your dreams the way you want to. Because of some disgusting, pervert, nasty, terrible, evil creature roaming this earth. Just trying to exploit, trying to take advantage, trying to destroy. That's terrible, bro. Moment of silence for them, man.
comedy Drake and Josh.
This is literally why all of our child actors grow up and become freaking savages. They grow up and we're like, what happened to them? The industry happened to them. These pedophiles is what happened to them. Being taken advantage of constantly is what happened to these people, bro. They start off as good children. They start off nice little sweet innocent kids on the TV screen. And then out of nowhere, they just switch up. They just turn into completely different people. It was like, what happened? What happened to such and such? Everything happened to them. Life happened to them. It's insane.
And caused the network's ratings to explode to new heights. The series premiere was watched by 3.2 million viewers, the network's highest rated series premiere in nearly 10 years. Drake and Josh episodes regularly saw viewership upwards of 5, 6, 7 million. As of 2006, the show ranked consistently among the 10 most watched cable shows across all of television. And you could just add Zoe 101 to the list of Dan's dominant programs, which saw an average of 3 million viewers per episode. It was on the set of Zoe 101 where even more photos emerged of Dan getting a little too comfortable with the cast, particularly Aaron Sanders, who was merely a child being held and coddled on Dan's lap. You can also see this photo where Dan's hand is resting on the child's lower back. Zoe 101 also had 34 different kissing scenes across its 4 seasons. While this may not seem that strange for a teen drama show, it did often lead to underage female actresses kissing over 18-year-old males. Brando Eaton was 20 years old and Victoria Justice was 14. Victoria at this time also had to kiss Jaren Vosberg, who was 18. And get this, 12-year-old Jamie Lynn Spears had to kiss 22-year-old Justin Timberlake on the set of All That, and Justin dated Britney Spears, which is Jamie's sister, 3 years earlier. Also, this Zoe 101 scene resurfaced recently, and many believe it to be a sexual innuendo. Spears' co-star, Alexa Nicolas, recalled Dan making a crew member squirt the syringe of goo at Spears over and over again. It's also important to remember that all of the information that you now know from this video was totally unknown by the public at the time. All the allegations and predatory behavior was all silenced before they could.
Just look at his face. He's sitting over here with his hand on the girl's shoulder, like he looking like.
Headlines. Barely any media outlets were reporting on why pedophiles were allowed to work on set. Survivors were scared to speak their truth, and even if they wanted to, they would have to go through a publicist or rely on a potentially corrupt media outlet to tell their story the right way. All anyone saw was the final product on television, so we assumed everything was consensual and safe and approved by people who had the best interests of the children in mind. Even if the network was suspicious of Dan and his production staff, which they weren't, they were going to do anything and everything to protect his reputation because Nickelodeon was red hot. At this point, they had been the #1 network in viewers aged 2 to 11 for over a decade. They were raking in millions of viewers and billions of dollars. Dan had more power than ever and was about to unleash all of his sick fantasies through iCarly. The basic premise of iCarly was that Carly Shay, played by previous Drake and Josh co-star Miranda Cosgrove, and her friends Sam and Freddie, played by Jeanette McCurdy and Nathan Kress, produce a web show from Carly's older brother's apartment. The show resonated with the real-world rise of online content creation and the growing influence of social media platforms like YouTube during the 2000s. The show within a show encouraged fan interaction by incorporating segments that invited viewers to participate in the show's interactive elements. Additionally, the characters often responded to fan mail and viewer submissions on their web show, further blurring the lines between fiction and reality. Like, take a look at this time they called a 12-year-old fan.
Do you have any questions for Sydney?
I follow your Twitter.
How old are you?
I'm 12.
No way, I just turned 16.
You're 12?
Yes.
I'm like a little over double that.
Yeah, Jerry's all old. So what do you like about iCarly?
I love it. It's really funny.
Anything else you want to know about iCarly or any questions?
That's
or anything?
wholesome.
No.
No, you're all set?
Nope.
Thank you.
I know what I know.
Would you like us to get on a plane and come to your house?
Yes.
Oh, well, that's not going to happen.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Dan himself often communicated directly with fans on his blog, danwarp.blogspot.com, where he gave behind-the-scenes information and did Q&As. He also started giving tons of behind-the-scenes clips to his Dan Warp YouTube channel, giving us insight on the cast's uncomfortability around him.
What? It wouldn't be a video from iCarly if I didn't do this to you. I don't know. Oh, yeah! What are you doing?
I don't know.
What's going on? What are you wearing today? Who did your outfit?
I did my outfit.
I've had too much caffeine.
Don't do anything with this footage. Please, it's so lame.
Did you know that the average adult American male has 18 hairs on each of his toes?
No. This is what happens when it gets late.
Yeah, seriously. Let us go home, Dan.
We would
Sorry
be
to tell
home
if you're playing
you
or
had
not.
gotten some of your lines right earlier in the day, right? Am I right? Yeah.
Not the clapping.
Yeah,
Not the clapping.
Now, who's embarrassed? No.
Is
What
he
are you doing?
punching his penis?
I'm scared.
Jeanette,
Hello.
Susie May Page wants to know.
Susie May Page.
Yeah, if you could fill a pool with "Get Out of Here."
Sorry.
Wants to know if you could fill a pool with anything you like and swim in it. What would it be and why?
Confetti, because it's a celebration in the pool.
Okay, that makes no sense. Miranda,
Pineapple juice.
what? I didn't ask the
Pineapple
question.
Oh, sorry. Well, I heard. I was thinking this whole time.
Okay, the question is, if you wanted me to hit you with a bottle of something, what would it be? Pineapple juice? Okay, here it comes. This is why I'm in Hollywood.
Yeah, eat your cereal, kids.
Did she say nice things about me? Because I will tase her if necessary.
Uh-oh.
I have the taser. We haven't had to use it in a long time. But
I said lots of nice things.
Oh, I said nice things about you too.
Oh.
That's gonna get on TV. That's gonna get on TV.
In these clips, you can get a glimpse of Dan's unpredictability. I mean, just look at how Miranda steps away from Dan as he proceeds to make his way around her back, and then hugs her from behind as she stands awkwardly still. As you can see, while Dan is shoving a camera in these actors' faces, they're often confused. Is he joking? Is he angry? Is he creepy? Is he going to touch them or grab them? They look extremely uncertain around him as he talks to them like a classic jester. But iCarly was a massive success for the network throughout its 6 seasons from 2007 to 2012. The pilot episode debuted on Nickelodeon to an audience of 4.1 million, followed by the second episode on the same day with 3.9 million viewers. The show was nominated for an Emmy Award for Outstanding Children's Program 5 times, and averaged 4.6 million viewers throughout its time on Nickelodeon. Somehow, Dan managed to outdo Drake and Josh. But looking back on the show, many of the jokes and innuendos were more blatant than we remember.
How long?
3.2 seconds.
Yeah! That's the longest it's ever taken you to beat me.
Or how about the sack, which was Dan making fun of the Snuggie.
You're just sitting on your couch, trying to polish your bowling ball, but your blanket keeps flying off your body.
Oh, my blanket keeps flying off my body.
Like, are we reading into it too much, or is polishing your ball while advertising the sack not strategic? They mentioned that the sack comes in 4 different colors.
The sack comes in rash red, mucus green, pus yellow, or blue.
His shows are always displaying close-ups of feet and putting cast members in predicaments where they have to touch each other's feet. Nobody thinks feet are this funny, especially not for them to be such a recurring bit in a television show. Many have pointed out that the Nickelodeon logo at one point was a foot, suggesting that Dan's influence was so strong he got them to change their logo momentarily to his fetish. I even found something on his blog that was particularly interesting. He had a segment called Fun Facts on his blog where he would go through an iCarly script and talk about tiny little details and why they matter. Like this one where he refers to Sam's necklace and how it's made of the same plastic that the antique radios that he collects are made out of. I mention this because it proves that there are no coincidences with what you see on screen. No matter how small or insignificant it may seem, Dan put it there on purpose. In this same episode, which is called I Date a Bad Boy, Dan says, scenes begin with Carly and Sam cutting a boy's hair. We see the first of 2 penny teas in this 1-hour episode. This one on Sam says, noodle booty. What does noodle booty mean? Why did Dan specifically point out her shirt and want us to know what it says? In another blog post, he specifically points out one of his intentionally inappropriate jokes. One where he wrote a joke where an adult woman sexualizes 17-year-old Nathan Kress. Dan writes, on the first few takes when Jane said her line, hey, those pants fit you real good, she was looking at the front of his pants. I had the director step in quietly and tell her that, because this is for Nickelodeon, we'd prefer she look at the back of his pants on that line. Winky face. I guess Dan thinks that complimenting a young boy's butt is somehow more appropriate. Additionally, take a look at this 2010 blog post where he discusses adults who watch iCarly. He writes, there are around 150 people who work on iCarly, and none of us approach it like we're making a kids show. We make iCarly no differently than if we were writing and producing a primetime half-hour comedy for NBC, CBS, or any one of the major broadcast networks. This statement directly contradicts what he said while addressing the Quiet on Set documentary.
Some people think that some of those jokes are inappropriate for children. What do you think of that?
Every one of those jokes was written for a kid audience because kids thought they were funny and only funny.
So Dan, are the jokes for adults, like you said 10 years ago on your blog, or are they for kids, like you just said recently when the pressure is at an all-time high? It was also during iCarly when 47-year-old Martin Weiss, who managed dozens of child actors, was formally charged with sexually abusing a former client. The victim told police that he had sex with Weiss 30 to 40 times about 6 years ago, and the abuse ended when he turned 15 years old. But Weiss denied that it was rape because the 15-year-old boy showed interest. But the boy said that Martin convinced him that this was common in the industry and denying him would ruin his career. Yet again, a pedophile infiltrated Nickelodeon, and nothing changed. Still, Dan was absolutely dominating. He likely had unimaginable power at the network. Whatever he said goes, but he may have gotten a little too